Hello and welcome to Colleague 7 Sprint Review for 19.06.01. This will cover the work undertaken between the 28th of May to the 10th of June. Our sprint goal for this sprint has been to deliver the link to candidate and link to contact feature, so that a candidate and contact who is the same person can be connected with their histories combined. Looking at the high-level items and to explain further, in this sprint, we've been able to add the option to link a candidate to a contact and vice versa, link a contact to a candidate. This feature also allows for quick access against the connected records and for an option to view the combined histories of both records. I'll give a demo on this shortly. We've added the current employer, current manager, and current job title fields to the personal tab of the candidate. We've been working on notifications again, this time resolving an issue so that notifications will always contain an associated link to the record. Further to recent sprints, we've been investigating the ability to create tasks and/or diary entries on behalf of other users. This was successful, and we have some final dev items for us to now deliver before we make this feature available. We've added the option to backdate email history when creating a newly created record. As part of a two-stage piece of dev work, we've added the option to include the HTML version of a parsed PDF file. The next stage will be to allow for this HTML to be included in the include document feature when creating a document, and that will be coming in the next few sprints. We've added the today option to the date picker and have allowed you to set the start of the week in the date picker as well. We've updated the working for us notification so that it takes extensions into account. And we've added filters to the users area in admin so that you can easily filter on whether the users are admin, active, or licensed. We'll now go through a brief demonstration on the key features from this sprint. Okay, so the first point we'll go through is the link candidates contact feature, and also in turn the link contact to candidate feature as the vice versa option. So this was the main point as part of this sprint, the main feature that we delivered in this sprint. So the link candidate to contact feature is available on the candidate entity and the contact entity, available off the view more menu. What you'll see here, if you're on a candidate as the example, off the view more menu, you'll see an option now that's been added called link to contact. And that will give you initially two options to land on: link to existing contact or create contact. You've also got another option for go to linked contact and remove linked contact as well, but they'll be non-landable if your candidate record isn't linked to a contact. So if we start by selecting link to existing contact there, what that'll do is obviously bring down the contact partial view, so you can look up a contact record or select a contact record, and this is obviously for the scenario of that contact and that candidate essentially being the same person. So you want to link the two records together. Once they're linked together and once you've selected to do so, what you'll see is off the top left, you'll see an icon there, which not only indicates that it's linked to a contact, but also acts as an option to select, so that you can click through that and it will go through to the associated contact record. Off the view more menu in that linked contact list, you'll now see that these two have been activated. So go to linked contact essentially does the same job as the icon, and remove link to contact obviously to sever that link between the two. In terms of on the history, what you'll see when you've got two records linked together through this process is that you'll have an entity type column added to the history, and you'll see that the different history options that are available from the different records will be merged in together. So the two histories will be combined. You also have an option up here to hide contact history and show contact history as well, similar to from the company entity, the ability to show and hide contact history. But that allows you essentially to see kind of all of the histories associated with the two records combined. And also off the back of the view more menu, we have this option to create a contact as well. But what I'll do first and foremost, if I just go over to the contacts quickly and just demonstrate from that point, kind of vice versa. Again, now we're in a contact record, you can see off the view more, that's now called link to candidates. And again, you've got the same functionality here, but just on the reverse. Again, the history, same functionality in terms of the histories combined, but again, just on the reverse, hide or show candidate history is available there. So if we go back to the, oh, and also, sorry, I should have mentioned on the history, when you link a candidate to a contact and or vice versa, you'll get a history being generated there, which records that you linked this contact to this candidate and the ID of that candidate, and also the same on the candidate against a contact record. If we go back to the candidate record quickly, just as a final point, just to demonstrate the creation of a contact. So off the view more, if I was to remove this link and hit yes there, just to unlink, and then here, if I was to create a contact, one thing that is slightly different when you create a contact through this process is that it's going to copy through fields associated with the candidates into the create contact form, just as a way of kind of auto-populating some data for you. Obviously, you've then got to select the company and decide what other additional content you want to add here before hitting save. But just as a way of kind of auto-filling and pre-filling that data, we copy over some fields there. And obviously, if you hit cancel, it will take you back to the candidate record as opposed to anything else. So that's the link candidate to contact feature, and also in turn the link contact candidate feature. So the next point to go through is the additional fields that we've added to the candidates entity, and these are namely the current employer field, the current manager field, and the current job title. And these are all available here, and these are links to their associated entity record. So this would open up the colleague software company record, this would open up Simon Batty as a contact, and this is a link to the placement associated here. And these fields are driven by the latest experience associated against the candidate. So obviously from this candidate record, if we go to the experience tab, you'll see a list there, all of the different placements that person has been associated with. Obviously there can be education in there as well, but really this is looking at placements that have been made and associations with employment, really, that's going to populate these fields. So if we look at the what it's going to be looking at is the start date and end date of this experience and finding what is the current placement. So we've got there the 22nd of May to the 31st of July. This is our current experience that it's using there to represent current employer, current manager, and current job title. And obviously that's all populated by just running placement workflow in the system. So this should be auto-populated without the need to kind of manually manipulate. However, in scenarios where, if we go to another candidate record here, in scenarios where there are no previous placements made against the candidate record, and it's just cited as unknown, but if you become aware of where that person is perhaps situated, or you want to create an experience against them manually, what you can do is, if we add an experiencer here, and we say that we'll look up a company, and then we'll select contacts. So select those, we'll give it a job title of developer, and then we'll give it the start date of, say, beginning of this month, and we'll hit save there. What that's done is obviously created a current placement situation now, or a current experience, certainly from this candidate's perspective. So if I was to refresh the candidate, what you'll see off the personal tab is those fields now populated on the basis of that experience record. And obviously, because we manually typed in the job title, it's not going to be linked. And if you had manually typed in the contact, it'll be the same. It'll be just the manual typing of that contact, as opposed to a link to the record. So you can manually type into, obviously, these fields, and that will populate this data. But if you want to link to associated records, it obviously needs to be looked up and found in that way. These fields are mergeable through merge template, or sorry, merge fields if you're doing either an email or a letter template or a letter. And also they can be found on when searching. They can also be used on the selection screens as column options. You'll see current employer, current manager, current job title is available there as options. And also off the summary view as well, if you're on a search result, you'll be able to select those different field options as well. So important fields that are now being added into the system, and that's a key update that we made there. Okay, so the next point to go through is the update that we've made when creating a new candidate or contact record, and that will ask you whether or not you want to backdate the email history logging associated with the record. So this is in scenarios where perhaps you've liaised with a contact or a candidate for several days in lead up to then creating them on the system, and you want to include that previous correspondence with that record. What we now have is an option when you hit save, where it'll ask you, do you want to, would you like to log the emails that have been sent and received by this candidate before today's date? What you can do is actually leave it blank, and it will import all instances of dealing with that email address, both you sending and also receiving. And also, yeah, but if you want, you could set it to a date perhaps of a certain period back. It will automatically be looking to record last week. So it will do it from today's date minus 7 days. But you can obviously change that to be, I don't know, say the beginning of the month, say, depending on when you obviously had your first dealings with that record. So on hitting save or hitting yes to that, it will obviously prompt the save process and the registering of the candidate record. But also as part of doing this, it will then also be, rather than just looking from then onwards at the emails that you've sent to and from the candidate, it'll also look at all the previous history that you have with that candidate and log that in this process. So depending on the date field that you've specified, it could be it could take a little while to process through all of those. But if it's just over the course of the past week, say, it should be fine. And then what we see, obviously, we've got this new record now that's been created. And if we go to history, you can see there that we've got a batch of histories there that have gone on all the way back to well, it's the 3rd of June there. Essentially from the time that you've registered. So you're starting the record, but already factoring in the history that you have with that record already, or with that candidate or contact already as a starting block. So that's the update we've made there, but it's also a user setting as well. If for whatever reason it's not something you want to have in place, it is something that you can turn on or off, and I believe that's under system here. Actually, no, sorry, it's under candidate. Option to backdate the login of emails on creation of record, and you can set that to no if you wish to have it work as it was previously. But we had a lot of requests for this to be set, so it'll be set to yes by default on global settings. And that's the update we made there. The next point to cover, and it's a minor point, but worth covering just all the same, and that's off the date pickers throughout the system. On selection of dates, what we've added is the today button. So in instances where you simply want to set the date as today's date, you can obviously just hit today and it will put in today's date within that field. We've also added in a setting similar to what we did with diary, where you can now set the start day of the week. So within user settings under system, you'll have an option for default start date on date pickers, and you can choose. I think the previous default has been Sunday, and it will fall back, I believe, on Sunday if nothing has been set. But Monday is obviously available as an option to choose now there, and obviously that will then dictate the ordering of the days that are available there within the date picker, and that will obviously affect all date pickers throughout the system. So it's that user setting in terms of the ordering of the days and the today date option as another key update with the date pickers in this sprint. The last point to cover is the include HTML file work that's been done in relation to the CV parser in this sprint. So just to demonstrate what I mean by that, if you're using the CV parser and the CV that you're working with is a PDF file, when you run the parser and it processes the PDF, you get back a HTML file we get back a HTML file from the CV engine, and that obviously is then displayed in this window here. So what we've added is an option whereby you can also take a copy of this PDF file as part of registering the candidate, so that you have the PDF file of the candidate, but also the converted HTML version of it, so that you have actually the text that you can then use perhaps for creating a branded CV later down the line. What we can do now off a user setting here is have it so that under text kernel CV parsing, retain HTML copy of candidate CV. If that is set to yes, which can be both a global and user setting, then when you go into the candidate record that is generated by the CV, within the Documents tab, you're going to see not just the PDF file, which is obviously shown in a PDF viewer, but also the HTML file of the PDF that's been scanned there. So this is phase one of kind of PDF converter option that we're building into the system. Stage two will be updating the create document workflow, so that the include document option here can include or can include the HTML file, or will include the HTML file. And then obviously as part of that, it then gives you all of the tools needed to be able to create a branded version of a PDF CV that you've received. So that's phase one of this work that's been delivered there. As always, if you have any queries or feedback, please get in touch. I'll be keen to hear from you. Also, for those using Colleague 7, feel free to submit your enhancement requests via the support team or directly to me using the above email address. The next video will be the sprint plan for 19.06.02, and as always, that will contain a high-level overview on the items we intend to work on during that sprint. Thanks for watching.